Good morning to all our members from Zimbabwe and everybody who has an interest in what is happening there. Title deed holders, friends, family, sympathizers. We have just more than 800 members now who have an interest in Zimbabwe, making SAI the biggest representative organization for the aspirations and the interests of those who were dispossessed in Zimbabwe. Sorry for the radio silence during the month of May. We've had a hectic month in May. It all started off with a visit to Hungary, having a number of discussions with the Hungarian government and representatives from development aid agencies such as Hungary Helps, where we hope to get a proper foundation for our fund for the destitute farmers. The follow-up meeting will happen on Wednesday morning with one of our members, Palatina Zoltan, who will be there in person in Budapest, and the rest of us will link in digitally. We will keep you posted on the progress there. But after the visit to Hungary, we also incidentally offered to get involved as a kind of a broker or an independent referee in the compensation process, because they understand why we need to be compensated outside of Zimbabwe. And we went on to Nampu. Now, at Nampu, we've had meetings with 8 title deed holders and also, of course, a large number of people who feel they have an interest in Zimbabwe, and especially agribusinesses who are eager to reinvest in Zimbabwe should things be sorted out there. But at Nampu, we also had the privilege of hosting quite a number of young people who are studying here in South Africa and who shared their dreams to one day go back to Zimbabwe and to farm there again. People whose parents have left there some 20 years ago. We also had our poll. The SAI poll was actually set up as an alternative poll running concurrently with the Welcome poll to see how the outcomes would differ from the official one from Welcome. And we've had some 635 title deed holders representing 1,881 title deeds who voted just less than 1% in favor of bonds compared to the Welcome vote, where 48-49% came out in favor of bonds. It was also interesting to see the outcomes of all the other questions we've asked, such as the opinion on the integrity and the future of the global compensation deed. Based on this outcome, which was run in real time, as soon as you have voted, you could actually immediately see the outcome. Based on this, we have approached Welcome with a request to have an audit of their vote, which was granted. We are now talking to service providers in Zimbabwe. We got various quotes from those who said that they will do it for free, up to a $25,000 quote. But first, the terms of reference for this audit must be thrashed out with Welcome and with the service provider. And this is something we simply have to do as soon as possible. After the poll, we also had our WFO, World Farmers Organization's General Assembly in Sun City this year, hosted by SAI, and you can imagine the pressure it has put on our secretariat. We are a very small staff. We are only 6 people working in the SAI office. And although AFASA in South Africa was co-hosting, we had to do all the organizational work ourselves mostly. At this General Assembly, we got two of our members who are title deed holders in Zimbabwe to represent that voice too. That was Trevor Gifford, previous president of CFU, and Graham Ray, previous vice president of the Zambia National Farmers Union. And I want to thank them for the dignity and the integrity with which they represented this voice. Personally, I had feedback from 4 of the 6 continents, Oceania, Africa, North America, and Europe, on their engagements with these 2 representatives. And many said to us, the engagement, the stories really opened their eyes. Everybody knew what happened in Zimbabwe. Few people know how this story is unfolding at the moment. In the run-up to this General Assembly, SAI has created some additional capacity to engage with embassies, also to invite them to the General Assembly. And Dirk Hannekom from Agriol Africa made contact and spoke to 132 embassies in Pretoria. Now, we also tabled the issue of compensation with all these embassies. And the feedback was at first a bit upsetting. It was made very clear to us, especially from embassies representing the European Union, countries who are members of the European Union, and North America, that the geopolitics of the day really does not favor our cause. Bluntly stated, they said, we cannot afford China and Russia to have the exclusive access to the mineral wealth, especially the lithium and borium in Zimbabwe. So there is a lot of pressure to lift Zedera and to ease the trade restrictions. So we pleaded with them not to throw the title deed holders under the bus. If Zimbabwe will be allowed back into the global economy without fundamental changes, allowing white Zimbabweans also to own title deeds on farmland, and if there's no proper compensation, it will be hard to achieve it afterwards. This is one of the strongest levers we have, and we are very grateful for the outcome in Sharm el-Sheikh, where the Western world made it very clear that they want to see the conditions of the trade restrictions to be adhered to before it is lifted. I was personally a bit concerned that the flame was dying out in the West, but I don't want to claim victory for SAI only. But I have no doubt that our engagements with the embassies made a small contribution to the West taking such a strong stand on what they expect from Zimbabwe for allowing it back into the global economy again. The communication with the Zimbabwean farmers up to now is certainly not what it should have been, but it's because of the hectic month we've had. I managed to visit Zimbabwe only once in May, and that was the visit to Bulawayo. But for the next month, we plan to have a short road show to the other centra in Zimbabwe. And we please need your help to establish exactly where we need to go to make best use of the opportunity. Before I go to Zimbabwe for this roadshow, I hope to see the African Development Bank once again, because it is very clear that the AFDB will play a central role in unlocking whatever compensation will come, given the position Akeya Adesina, who's heading up the African Development Bank right now, The statements he made in Harare kind of showed the way. They have an office in Centurion, and we have developed a few alternatives which we need to moot with them. We all know that the money is simply not there to compensate in the way we want it. There will be no immediate cash payments. And bonds is clearly not the way to go, given the response of the title deed holders. So we are working with alternative instruments, and we have professional help both from South Africa, from Hungary, and from London in the development of these. Speaking of which, we are also still working on the development of the investment instrument to kind of buy or host title deeds on behalf of title deed holders, so that we give these title deeds a longer life than the title deed holders. To take this internationally, we cannot make mistakes in the design of it. And this is why we have involved professionals to help us with it. I hope to be in London in the last 2 weeks of June. There's an invitation to speak to the Royal National Geographic Society. Ben Freed opened the gates for us to address them on the Zimbabwean situation, and we plan to make best use of it. Of course, in London we will also see other influencers and a number of our members who are based in the UK. I think the time is ripe to set up a special interest group inside for our Zimbabwean members, with its own management committee, somebody who can expand the capacity we have inside, and also somebody who's got a proper mandate to advise us on the trends, the burning issues, and not only the what, but also the how of organizing this very special constituency. As soon as there are more news, you will hear from us again. Goodbye.